Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head down to Singapore once again, and we're going to return to a brewery that's featured on the channel once before. Now, the last beer that I tried from these guys was really quite interesting, and one that I had actually tried on tap in Singapore, and it was a little bit different in the can to how it was from what I remember it on tap. But this brewery are very, very well respected. A lot of Singaporean craft beer fans would tell you they're best known for using lots of different adjuncts in their beer and also for their different food and dessert inspired beers. But yeah, these beers that you find from these guys are quite interesting. We're going to review a few of them over the next couple of videos. But the beer we're going to have a look at today is a style that I haven't tried from this brewery before. It's a style that I very much enjoy, and one that has been enjoying a little bit of renewed popularity in recent times actually. So yeah, it's got a twist to it that I think will be very interesting. So needless to say, I'm very curious to see what it's going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to head to Singapore, like I said. We're going to go to Mandai, which is kind of in the central northern part of the island, and that means that we're going to have a look at another beer from the very interesting Sunbird Brewing Company. So this particular beer is called Matsurika. It comes in at 4.8% ABV, and this one is a Pilsner containing flaked oats, Japanese Matsurika rice petals, and also some green tea leaves. So yeah, a very adjuncty Czech Pilsner, this one. I think it should be very, very interesting. So yeah, let's crack on with this one and see what it has in store for us. So, as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Sunbird Brewing Company before, and we will add another 2 to that list over the next little while. You can keep your eyes peeled for those, but there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Singaporean list along with a few other things. That's been added to fairly regularly at the moment, of course. But yeah, do make sure you check out the playlist of beers from other countries as well, because there are some very, very interesting things on the channel these days. But yeah, let's go on and chat a little bit about Sunbird Brewing Company then, on to my brewery notes. So, Sunbird Brewing, as I've mentioned already, are based in Singapore, and the company was founded back in 2020 by Clive Tan. So, Clive was apparently introduced to craft beer during his university days, and he was just shocked at how different this was in comparison with the big commercial beers such as Tiger and things. But this prompted him to start researching the science behind brewing, and it got him interested in home brewing for himself. But a while later, he was headhunted by Archipelago Brewing, and thus he became the youngest professional brewer in all of Singapore, despite coming from a background largely with financial and the economic side of things. But I think he was also teaching a little bit as well. But he says that he always had the goal of opening his own brewery within 5 years of joining the industry. So after working at Archipelago for 5 years, where he was operating a 6-figure output, he decided to bite the bullet and start making plans for his own brewery, which would become Sunbird. So it apparently took him about a year to get everything ready for the brewery, including licenses, choosing his location, and also procuring the equipment. But the brewery was then launched in April of 2020, which of course is just when COVID started to kick off. But the brewery can be found in the Mandai area, which is toward the north of the island, as I mentioned earlier, and over the years they've won a number of awards for their beers. But these days, Clive is joined in the brewery by Mark and Liang. They're operating a 10 hectolitre brew kit, and they initially sold the beers in bottles, but they transitioned to cans in 2022. And over the years, they've gradually expanded the brewery's infrastructure, and apparently they produced around 90,000 litres in 2023. So still a pretty small operation, and in Singapore, I guess space is a bit limited and things, the real estate prices are a bit crazy and so on. But yeah, these guys are kind of on the rise at the moment. But in late 2021, they opened up a tap room in Angmo-kyo, which had 10 taps and sold burgers and rice bowls. It's now closed, unfortunately, and I think much of this was due to the COVID pandemic. I think that was called, what was it? Was it called Scarlet by Sunbird, if I remember correctly? But yeah, they had that the tap room there. And the brewery, it was Crimson, not Scarlet. But yeah, the brewery takes its name from the crimson sunbird, which is the national bird of Singapore. So yeah, they wanted to have a kind of distinctly Singaporean trademark, if you like, which I think is great. But as of May 2024, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 45 different kinds of beer according to Untappd. And like I mentioned to you earlier, a lot of Singaporean craft beer fans would probably tell you that this brewery are known for making beers that have quite interesting adjuncts and twists in them, but I think they do have a few kind of natural beers as well, actually. So yeah, we'll need to try a few more of the Sunbird things when I go to Singapore next time. It'd be quite cool to get Clive on and do a little meet the brewery sort of thing as well with him. So we'll need to see if we can make that happen at some point in the future. But yeah, anyway, that's everything I can tell you about Sunbird Brewing Company for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on. And you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on and have a little look at the beer itself. I'll just let you have a wee look at the artwork on this one before we open up. Quite different from the last one that we had from these guys, of course. Plain silver top on the can. This one is 330 millilitres, incidentally, but you can see lovely kind of floral patterns on this one. I think this is meant to be like the jasmine flowers or something like that. I'm not 100% sure. But there you can see properly the Sunbird Brewing Company symbol, which I think is great. So it tells you a little bit about the company on the side here and the beer. It says, this is our interpretation of the classic Czech Pilsner accompanied by flaked oats, Japanese Matsurika jasmine petals, and it did say on Untappd actually that had a bit of tea leaves in it. It doesn't say that here, maybe they've taken those out. But a palate marriage of crisp and soft to celebrate the festival of light. So yeah, this should be quite an interesting one. But yeah, 4.8% Pilsner. Remember, the Pilsner style originated from the city of Pilsen in the Czech Republic back in the 1840s, I want to say, or 1820s, I forget. But yeah, it was a style, it was a Bavarian brewer who came over to what is now the Czech Republic. At that time it was part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, so the area was lived in by both ethnic Germans and ethnic Czechs, which is why you have the name Pilsner, but also Pilsen. So you have Pilsner Urquell, which is the original one, Pilzensky Prystroy, if you want to use the Czech name of it. But yeah, that's a style that originated in Czech Pilsner. So for me, the main difference between a German and a Czech Pilsner would be the kind of hoppy characters, if you like. The Czech Pilsners, I think, tend to be a bit smoother and a bit more yeasty as well. The hoppy character is just a little bit spicier, I would say, due to the Czech Žatec hops, whereas the German Pilsners are that wee bit cleaner, very slightly sweeter, I would say, in the malt base, and the hoppy character is a wee bit brighter, almost, rather than being spicy. But yeah, just very subtle differences, but it is in essence the same style. Technically, these are, of course, lager beers, which means they ferment at lower temperatures using bottom fermenting yeasts, usually like 8 to 12 degrees Celsius. And because of that, you know, chemistry, slower reaction time, it means that these beers have to ferment for longer. I think it's usually like 30 or 45 days or something like that you're talking about. But you can do very long fermentation Pilsners as well, if you really want to. So yeah. I think that's everything we need to say about the technical side of the beer. We said it's 4.8% ABV. It's a Czech style Pilsner, this one, which means it will have Czech Žatec hops in it, or some other Czech variety, of course, because there are a few. But yeah, let's get this guy out into the glass and see what it's all about. I'm very, very curious about this, I have to say. I love lager beers because of my time in Germany. So I'm very, very curious to see what this one will have in store for us. So before the head disappears, you can see that this one poured with about a half finger of a kind of foamy cream coloured head. One or two big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass with this one, a few little ones going up toward the bottom of the head there. But you know, overall it looks pretty nice, this one. You can see it actually looks a little bit like a pale ale or something like that because of the natural haze. But you can see It does look pretty nice. That head has just faded away to be pretty much nothing now. But yeah, remember the colour of your beer depends on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise and thus you get a darker colour of beer. But any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect its colour as well. And that can vary from brewery to brewery, beer to beer, and so on. But yeah, it's you know, with this one, I think most of the colour will be coming from the malts, but maybe the rice would, and the jasmine petals and stuff like that would give it a wee bit of a kind of colour as well. Yeah, probably that would affect the colour a little bit. But yeah, this one's obviously just unfiltered, and it's not, the colour of this one is not out with the spectrum of what you would expect from the Pilsner as a style. But yeah, I think we've said everything we really need to about the aroma and the appearance. Brain is not working because of this arsehole with the drill outside. But yeah, it's I think that's everything about the appearance, and you can see not too much in the way of visible carbonation. But yeah, let's have a wee look at the aroma of this one then and see what we're going to get out of it. So, curious about this. Oh yeah, that smells really, really nice actually. Yeah, it's quite interesting, this one, because you have, I actually had a lovely beer. This one in a sense reminds me of the oat lager that I had from New Barns back in the motherland of Scotland, for those of you watching abroad, yeah. But yeah, it kind of the aroma of this one really reminds me of that, and that was one of the main reasons I was very curious about this beer, because it's an oat pilsner. Because the oat lagers are always very, very smooth, but they're still very light and drinkable. I think it's a bit of an underrated style actually, or a bit of an underutilised style, I guess we could say. But yeah, the aroma of this is great. It's lovely and smooth. It's got a good little bit of floral character to it. Yeah, there's a lot going on in this one actually. So let's just try and break that down and describe it for you a wee bit more in depth. Yeah, aroma-wise, this is really, really nice. So the backbone of this beer, obviously, you've got a little bit of that kind of fresh, hedgehoggy, white bready bread crust in there. So yeah, hedgehoggy, white bready bread crust, that's the backbone of the beer. There are little elements of kind of woodiness and things in this one. Yeah, you've got the fresh white bready bread crust in there. There's a little bit of woodiness. There's a little bit of a crackery note in there. Yeah, so a wee bit of cracker, wee bit of woodiness, a little bit of kind of brown bread and things, but a lot of fluffy white bread for me. Yeah, so lovely kind of fluffy white bread, I would say. You've also got yeah, fluffy white bread for sure, bit of kind of sweeter brown bread in there, and then you've also got a little bit of the kind of dryness from the Pilsner malts. The Pilsner malts are, of course, very distinctive, so you have this kind of crisp Pilsner malty dryness in there at the back of the nose, but you can also smell a wee bit of the kind of smoothness of the oats in this beer. Now, in comparison with IPAs, they don't come across as being particularly creamy, but they're really, really smooth, and it just gives the bread a wee bit more kind of airiness and smoothness, and just a little touch of sweetness almost as well. So you've got the Pilsner malty crispness in this one, you've got the kind of white bready character, then the oaty notes in there too, which are great. And yeah, the way all of that goes together I think is really nice. There's a lovely little bit of kind of biscuity sweetness in there as well, which is really, really nice. So yeah, little bit of like Werther's Original Butter Candy Butterscotch, nice little bit of sweeter biscuit in there. All of these things come across very, very nicely. So yeah, I like that about this one. It's the aroma's really, really quite, actually has a good little bit of complexity to it as well, because within the bread you can smell this kind of jasmine, big floral type note coming out of it. So it almost reminds me a little bit of what's the yellow rice that you get? Is it the jasmine rice, pilau rice? It kind of reminds me of that actually. The aroma that this beer's given me, it's like a little bit of an almost like bready pilau rice kind of thing, or I've had a jasmine naan bread before. It's kind of a wee bit like that, to be honest with you. And you know, obviously there is, to me, I would associate the naan bread, of course, with India, and there are quite a lot of Indian origin people in Singapore as well, so that would make sense. Yeah, on the hoppy, I think we said everything we need about the kind of maltier side of the beer. So on the hoppy side of things, it actually comes across, the green component to me actually comes across as being a bit more German. It feels a little bit brighter, but it might be because of the presence of these jasmine petals that are in this one. But yeah, certainly there's a little touch of earthiness in there. There's a wee bit of a herbal character, so a little bit of earthiness, a little bit of herbal character, some nice floral aromaticity as well, and you've also got some nice bright grassiness too, which I think is great. So yeah, lovely, nice kind of bright floral aromaticity, lovely little bit of grassiness in there, and then yeah, the way all of that pieces together, I think, is really very, very nice. So yeah, bit grassy, bit floral, wee bit herbal and earthy. It's got a nice smoothness to the green component as well, I would say. So yeah, that way that pieces together is quite nice. On the fruity side of things, it's kind of what you'd expect. I mean, little touch of like apricot, little touch of little touch of apricot, little touch of like maybe pear or something like that, and maybe even a little bit of like gooseberry or something. So yeah, the way everything pieces together in this one, I think, is really, really very nice. So it gets a big thumbs up from me on the aroma, but I think we should taste this one now and see what it's all about. So yeah, this is the Matsurika, a 4.8% Czech style Pilsner with jasmine rice petals from Japan, a little bit of tea leaf according to Untappd, not so sure about that one, and also a little bit of flaked oats in it as well. This one's from Sunbird Brewing Company in Mandai in Singapore. So as I always say, take a bit of time to enjoy the aroma before you get stuck in, but I think we should taste this one now and see what it's all about. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Ooh, that's nice. That is very, very nice, actually. Yeah. It's almost, you know, it actually reminds me of this one. I have a video that will come out, might be out the time that this beer publishes actually, but it reminds me actually of some of the beers that I had from 1925 Brewing Company when I was down in Singapore, because you know they like to do beers that are very nice to pair with food and things like that. This lager actually reminds me of their kind of was it a lychee lager that I tried with Yi? That was really, really nice. So yeah, this one, this is very, very good. I'm going to say thumbs up to Sunbird once again. Quite different. I mean, this, for me as a European, this is quite different because obviously when we drink these beers, we want them to be like really true to style and things like this. You want the beer, if you're trying a Pilsner from a country a country outside the Czech Republic or Germany, you want it to taste like it came from Czech Republic or Germany. But this is like a sort of Asian fusion type thing almost, and it's for me it's really interesting. I really like it. Dangerously easy to drink as well. I've only got one can of this, so I need to be a little bit conservative when I'm doing the tasting of this one, so do excuse me for that. But yeah, this thing would disappear very, very quickly if it was that. And I guess that's maybe one thing, like a very kind of minor complaint I often make about breweries selling lagers is quite often they'll do 330s. 330s, yeah, it's understandable commercially in the early stage, but if you're going to continue with beers like this, do 440s or half-litre cans for the lagers, definitely. I would certainly say that. But yeah, anyway, this beer is really nice. It's very smooth, gives you that little bit of kind of floral spice that you would expect into the aftertaste considering what this beer is, and it's easy and drinkable, which is what you want from a Pilsner or pretty much any type of lager, to be honest with you. So yeah, let's break this beer down then and describe the flavour a wee bit more in depth for you, as we always do. But this is good, and it's kind of interesting because it shows you that Sunbird can do the big dark side of things very well, but they can also do the very light side of things well. So yeah, maybe we need to try some things in the middle next. But yeah, middle third of your palate then, the backbone of the beer, you've got this lovely smooth, like white bready hedgehog bread crust coming out of this one. As you move further forward, there's a little bit of a kind of woody, crackery sort of thing in there, which is great. So yeah, a little bit of woody, yeah, fresh hedgehog white bready bread crust, a little bit of a woody character going further forward, and then yeah, you've got a wee bit of like a Jacob's cream cracker kind of sitting on top of that. Yeah, on top of that, you get a little bit of like a kind of sweet, there's a layer of like a kind of sweet brown bread in there. So yeah, there's a little bit of a sweet brown bready character in there. And you can feel, above that you've got the white bready layer, and within these two bready layers, you can really feel that sort of jasmine-y, kind of spicy, floral character just pushing its way out. This beer feels like really aromatic on the palate, which you would expect considering what this thing is. So yeah, the floral notes are right in the middle of the palate with this one, and they just kind of emanate from these bready characteristics in the malt base. But yeah, above the white bread, you can feel there's this denser layer of kind of smoothness in there, and that's obviously the oat flakes that are given that. So you get this big kind of smooth layer from the oat flakes. It's got a little bit of, it has got a little touch of almost creaminess to it, but it's a little bit drier. I do wonder, in New England IPAs, the oats always come across as being very sort of creamy and things. In lager beers, yeah, maybe they're just that little bit sort of drier, I guess. But yeah, the oaty character in this one's almost got a little bit of like a kind of porridgey consistency to it. So it's a bit creamier in the middle. If you go down that middle line of your palate, you can feel it's a little bit creamier, but as you spread out toward the sides of your palate, it just feels a little bit drier and more kind of porridgey like. So yeah, the way that all of that goes together is pretty nice. At the back of that middle third of your palate, you start to get some of the Pilsner malt characters coming out. So the Pilsner malt is of course going to give you that bit of dryness, crispness, and you can feel that. But above the oaty layer in this beer, you can feel the sweeter side of the Pilsner malt coming out. So in the dead centre of your palate, you can feel that little tiny circle where you have this wee touch of like caramelly, biscuity note, and as you move further out from that, you're maybe getting a little hint of like Werther's original butter candy butterscotch, and as you push out toward the very edges of the if you push out toward the very edges of the middle third of your palate, yeah, there's a little bit of McVitie's digestive biscuit in there. So yeah, the way all of that goes together in the middle third of the palate is very, very nice. I'm wondering if there's a little bit of tea in this one. It does give you a little bit of an almost kind of green tea type thing into the aftertaste. And I'm not really the greatest fan of tea. I just felt tea never really tasted very much, to be quite honest with you. I've got quite a strong flavour palette, of course. But yeah, the way everything goes together on this one's really nice, and that sort of floral jasmine-y type thing that comes out of this, it's really nice. I mean, if you like hibiscus wheat beers and stuff like that, I don't know how popular those still are, to be honest with you. Those were a little bit popular a couple of years ago and things. But if you like those sorts of beer, then this is one you will quite enjoy. But in fairness as well, the little bit of spice that this one has, I think it's this is a beer that's probably designed for the Singaporean palate in a way. Actually, because there were one or two others that were quite like this down there. So yeah, interesting stuff for sure. That's the middle third of the palate. Let's go to the back third of the palate. As I've often said, sweeter flavours come out further forward on the palate, more dry and bitter flavours come out further back. So, border region between middle and back third of your palate, you get a little bit of the brown bread in the base, you get a little bit of the white bread on top, and then at the very top you can feel that little bit of like Pilsner malty kind of dryness and spiciness. The base of that back third of the palate, you have that little bit of kind of bread crusty character again, but it's a little bit drier and more grainy if you like. Then you can feel a bit of the almost crackery layer. Then you've got the brown bready character which sits on top of that, more light, fluffy and airy brown bread. Then you've got the white bready character above that, which is a little bit lighter and more airy as well, but a wee bit drier too. And then you can feel the dryness of the Pilsner malt just creeping over the top of that, which is nice. So yeah, the way all of that pieces together, I think, is really nice in this one. But above all of that malty character on the back third of the palate, you start to get the yeasty notes out of the beer. So let's have a wee look at those yeasty notes. So, the yeasty side of the beer, I would say the yeasty side of things in this beer, it's quite bready really. I think it's probably a fairly standard Czech Pilsner yeast that's been used in this. So in the centre you can feel there's a little touch of a sweet brown bready character that's dense. As you move further out, it's got a little bit more fluffy white bread, and then there's a wee touch of bread crust just around the edge there. So yeah, the way all of that pieces together, I think, is quite nice. So definitely, yeah, back third of the palate you can feel the flavour is taller. Then as you move further forward into the middle third of your palate, it just kind of condenses down and squashes together that little bit more. So yeah, the way all of it pieces together, I think, is really quite nice on the malty yeasty side. So yeah, taller flavour on the back third of your palate, more kind of dense and squashed together on the middle third of your palate. So yeah, it's good. On the hoppy side of things then, it's kind of what you'd expect. In the back corners of the palate, you've got a little touch of earthiness there. As you move further forward, it's a wee bit more herbal, and as you reach the kind of front corners of your tongue, it's got a little bit more kind of floral aromatic spice to it, which is nice. Round the front curve of the tongue, it's a little bit lighter and more grassy, I would say. So yeah, a little bit lighter, more floral and grassy sort of thing. Doesn't come across as being overly spicy, if you like, and I would expect a wee bit more spiciness from Czech Sats hops, but maybe the fact that there's the jasmine petals in here is kind of suppressing that a wee bit, I don't know. But let's look at the front third of the palate then, and the fruity side of things. So the border region between front third and middle third of your palate. So in the base there, you've got the kind of brown bready characters. On top of that, you've got the brown bready characters in the base, the white bready character on top, and a wee bit of the Pilsner malt on top. But then yeah, the base of that, I would say, yeah, the base of that brown bread, the base of that front third of your palate, you've got the bread crust in there, the brown bread, well, the white bready bread crust, the cracker, the brown bread, the white bread. Then you get that nice little oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters roll the way out of the beer. So let's look at the fruity side. So yeah, I mean, the fruity side is kind of what I would have expected, to be honest. There's like a little bit of sultana, maybe, you know, dry white green grapes, bit of pear, bit of apricot, yeah, kind of things like that. But you can feel the sort of jasmine petally spice kind of pushing its way out from underneath that. So yeah, it's more like a peary sultana type note, I think you're getting from the fruity side of this beer. I think that's it. I think that's everything we really need to say about the flavour of this one. Interesting stuff for sure. I like stuff that tests my palate. After 4,000 odd beer reviews, this is what you want. You want stuff that's going to test your palate, and this one certainly has done that. So thumbs up to Sunbird for giving me something a wee bit different. On the mouthfeel side of things then, just to round off, for me, this beer, I'd say it's top end of light bodied. The carbonation is quite smooth on this one. It's one of the more oily lagers that I've come across, I would say. In terms of IBUs, I think this is a fairly standard, like, you know, 20, 25 IBU beer. But in fairness, you have got that wee bit of spice to it, which could be interpreted or conflated as being bitterness. So it maybe the spiciness maybe gives you a wee bit more of a kind of bitterness, but I think this is probably about 20-ish IBUs. The malt base, like we said, a bit dry underneath, bit kind of smooth in the middle with that bit of spiciness, a little bit of smooth oaty character, wee touch of sweetness on top, and then yeah, you've got a really nice little bit of fruity character in this one as well. Quite a dry but slightly oily fruity note. But all in all, a really nice beer. It's certainly something that's very interesting, and if you're in Singapore, you should try a few beers like this, because they do like this sort of like floral spicy kind of thing with their lighter beers. I've noticed that a little bit actually. So yeah, as I always say, take a bit of time to consider what's going on in your beers. It's always nice to learn different things about brewing and so on. But yeah, Sunbird have done a pretty interesting thing here. But yeah, this was the Matsurika 4.8% Czech Pilsner with Japanese Matsurika jasmine petals in it and a bit of oat flake as well. Really nice beer, this one, and definitely worth trying. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Sunbird Brewing Company as well, and we will no doubt return to these guys again at some point in the very near future. But until then, Sláinte, Skål, cheers, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Ciao just now, and thank you to the guys at Sunbird as well for making this review possible. Ciao just now.